Hello, we are going to do a very kind of a relaxing blendy exercise today with paint. We're going to start with a pencil, and then I've grabbed some different things that are round because we're going to have different sizes of round circles. So anything you just can kind of trace. I'm going to start here. So I've used my tape, and I've got kind of this circle coming off of the side. And let's see. Then I'm going to add another circle that's a little bit smaller. You could use the top from a peanut butter jar, a styrofoam cup. You can see that's not perfect, but I'll just paint it a little nicer. I'm going to have a little tiny one coming up over here. That's also not perfect, but it's totally all right. Then I have this metal thing that I found. So it's going to be kind of coming out of the side. It's going to be kind of big. So it's kind of planetary looking. I'm not happy with this at all. I'm going to erase it and start over. I know I always tell you all not to erase, but that one was super messy, so I'm going to do it again. I think I'm also going to move it over a little bit. With my pencil, I'm kind of just going very lightly. I'm not going too dark. All right, there's another one. What else do I have sitting on my desk that's round? Here's another thing of tape that's maybe a different size. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I just kind of want them to be a little bit different. All of yours can be the same size if you want. I am just choosing to do some in different sizes. Let's see, do I need another circle anywhere? Maybe I'll have one more kind of bouncing in from this side. I make really messy circles with that one, don't I? Okay, so we've got a few circles drawn. Now we can get started. I have also got some salt here, and this is optional. You can use like regular table salt. I've also brought, because in our house we have a lot of different kinds of salt. My husband cooks a lot, so I have some kosher salt, some pickling salt, and what is the other salt? Oh, some pretzel salt. So we'll just kind of experiment with these and see what they all do. All right, and I've got a paper towel here. I'm done with my circles, so I can put all my circle things off to the side. And I've got my paper towel here for my brush, and I'm just using these watercolors here. Just 8 colors. You can use as many colors as you want. This is completely up to you. You can use the same colors I'm using. You can use different colors. And what I'm going to do, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to start on the left side of my paper. And I'm going to pick a circle, and I'm just coloring it in only with water. I'm just getting this paper a little bit wet, and I'm coloring it right in with this water, just to get my paper damp. That's all I'm doing here. So going in with water, I'm just using a light touch with my brush. That will help my brush stay nice longer. And I'm starting to think, what color will this one be? Or what first color will it be? Because you know me, you know I'm going to do some blending. Ha 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 ha. All right, so I think I'm going to start with purple. This is purple. I know it looks kind of black, but it's purple. So I'm going to start with purple, and this is what we call wet on wet painting. And you see how I can just touch my brush down, and because we've already gotten this paper wet, that paint is just gonna travel across, and I love watching it. It's so much fun. So I'm gonna put a little more purple here in the corner. And you can paint this whole thing purple if that's what you're feeling today. I like to mix colors, so I'm gonna probably make it purple in another color. Likely red. Let's do purple and red. That sounds good to me. So I'm gonna just touch my brush down here with the red and see what it does to kind of mix with this purple. And you can see I'm not being really purposeful with my blending. I'm just touching that tip to the purple so that the paints interact. So this is a great way to just get to know your paints, see what they will do. Oh, that red is a strong pigment too. It likes to travel. So since we've already put water on our paper, it kind of gives us this nice boundary over here. And our paint doesn't want to go any further than that boundary, which is convenient because we don't want it to go past that boundary. All right, so now I'm just gonna sweep this red over into the area that doesn't have any paint on it and put a little more pigment. And you can see we've got kind of an interesting line here between red and purple. I'm going to encourage this red to move on over. And I can tap a little bit and throw just a little bit of red on there. You can try all different things with this exercise. There's no wrong way to do anything. So this is just about fun and exploring your paints. All right. So now I'm gonna throw a little bit of salt on this, and I don't remember which one this is. I think this is the pretzel salt, and I'm just throwing a few grains. And it's really only gonna work where the paint is wet. So that's the pretzel salt, and it's big and chunky. And then I'll throw some very tiny salt over here in the purple, and maybe on the edge too of this red, and we'll see if we see a difference in the way it acts with the paint. What the salt does is it soaks up water, and then as that paint dries, some of that salt recrystallizes, and it makes for a very interesting effect. I'm going to put a little water on top of the salt because this paint over here was already dry, but that's no fun. No fun at all. I'm going to water that up. So you can always come back and you can put more water. You can put more paint on top of your salt if you want to. And we'll just see what happens. All right, and then we can move on to our next dot. So on my next dot, I think I'm going to go with yellow. I'm going to get my yellow nice and watered up here. So I'll have some paint to work with. And I'm not going to put water down first on this one. I'm just going straight in with yellow. And we'll see if we feel differently. I think that it will make the paper, the color on the paper a little more vibrant. But yellow is a nice light color. I'm just adding some more water so that when I come in with my next color, it's going to be nice and wet. And my paint will do some fun things for me. Excuse me. Oof. Whoa. All right, so I'm going to go in with, I think with orange into my yellow. It's going to make it a really bright and fun look. And what I think I'm gonna do is kind of just splash a little bit. So I've got my brush pointing downward and I'm just splashing. That is a lot of fun. All right, so we're gonna see what that paint does. And I got some splashes here where I don't really want them. So I'm gonna get a wet brush and I'm gonna kind of dilute them. And then I'm gonna try to vacuum them off. I'm drying out my brush and vacuuming those off. So then later, I can go back in here and hopefully this part will be dried and no one will ever know that we accidentally got orange there. Okay, so we're just gonna see what happens, and I'm gonna try some of this other salt here in my orange and yellow planet. So we'll see how that ends up working when it dries. Okay, got some little planets here. What should we do? Let's do a green one. And I like colors. You can always use like black and brown. If you use black, you want to be very sparing with your black paint. And since green is a darker color, I'm gonna paint half of this with water first. And then we'll see what happens with our paint. If it's any different on the part where we painted with water first versus where we didn't. So I'm going half green. And then I'm gonna rinse. I think I'm gonna do blue. And our paper has not been wet over here yet. So maybe this side will be a little bit darker. Because when that pigment goes straight to the paper, it kind of grabs. But if there's water already on the paper, it's a little bit of a different action. And then I'm just gonna ask these paints to get together a little bit. There we go. Looking good. All right, get over there, green, go. I'm just pushing it a little bit. And I think I may not put salt on this one, we'll see. I have not decided yet. I'm gonna put tiny salt, but only on the blue side, not on the green side. We'll see what that does for us. I think I do want a little bit more water. I'm gonna water down that salt nicely. See what happens. This is a really fun painting. It's experimental. You can do it as many times as you want. I'm gonna also vacuum a little paint off here. This paint is really settling over here, so I'm gonna remove some of it. That's called lifting. Although I think it's more fun to call it paint vacuum. But so that's lifting paint. So that's another way we can make our paint lighter. All right. What should we do next? I'm gonna go in, let's see. Let's start with, I'm gonna paint water first. So this is just water. I think I'm gonna make this one orange. That's so fun to watch. I love the fluidity of watercolor. It's so relaxing to just paint it, watch it travel across that water. That is such a good time. All right, so let's do orange, and then I'm gonna do some red. Let's see what orange and red do together. I like to use colors that are near each other in the rainbow. They just tend to blend a little nicer. And they don't get muddy as quickly. And by muddy, I mean kind of brownish gray in color. And if you're looking for brown and gray, then there you go. That's a great way to get it. But sometimes I'm not looking for that. All right. think I'm going to be very experimental and put another color in here. Put a little bit of yellow. We're going to see what happens to that yellow as it dries. I'm not going to blend it at all. I'm just going to kind of let it bloom in some different places. So we're going to see what happens there. All right. And then I think for this tiny planet down here, I'm going to go purple again. And I'm just going straight in with my purple. I'm not painting water first. This is just purple on paper. You can see how that is darker than up here where we painted first with water. So let's see, I'm gonna put some of this big salt in my little purple planet. And we'll see what it does. I'll put a lot of salt in this one, and I can show you the difference between using salt sparingly and using a lot of salt. This is a great way to just try stuff out, see what happens. All right, so we've got big salt down on our purple planet. Let's see, what about this one? I want another blue, but I might mix a color. And I have this little palette, but you can also mix a color in the lid of your paint pan. It's sectioned so that you can do that. I'm gonna make kind of an aqua. So I'm gonna mix green and blue. And that's still very green, so I'm gonna mix more blue in. There we go. That's getting more the color that I'm looking for. So I've got this nice kind of an aqua color. And I think I'm going to paint this one with water first. I like the wet on wet. I like that a lot. So I'm just going to use, and I'm just using the tip of my brush. I'm not squishing down to this metal part of my brush. I'm just using the tip of my brush and letting it kind of dance lightly across the paper. I'm not smashing down. I'm not being real aggressive with my paintbrush. Watercolors kind of require a lighter touch. Works a little nicer. All right, and I have, excuse me, but I've got like pet hair in my paint. All right, so then I'm gonna add this nice aqua color, and I'm just gonna dab it in on the edges here and let it travel as it wishes. It's one of my favorite relaxation activities. Is just to watch that paint travel through the water that I have already put on the page. And I'm starting to think in my mind, what color do I want to mix here on this big circle? I'm kind of starting to think of them as planets, but they don't have to be that. They can be anything you want. More of that paint, so let's bring it over here. What can we put in here? Maybe some red? Let's try red with it. I think that could be really interesting. See how red acts? I kind of want to just splash it a little bit. Yeah. Ooh, I love to watch those colors bloom. I don't want to get it on my paper. So what I'm going to do is just hold a paper towel here and hopefully keep it from getting too much on the rest of my paper. That is sort of fun. I kind of want to do that with another color. I got a little bit here, so I'm going to try to dilute that. And then I'll just vacuum it up. Yeah! All right. What other color would go good with this aqua and this red? Maybe some purple? Let's try it. I'm just gonna dot. Ooh, that's fun. I love it. Dot. Dot. Hope you can see this. I hope the glare isn't too much. So I've loaded my brush with kind of a lot of color, and I'm just barely touching it to that water, and I'm letting it do whatever that paint decides to do when it hits. And I like to sometimes put a dot in the middle of a dot that I've already put down, because it'll kind of might push those boundaries and make it look really interesting. And we can go back in too with a color we already used, like red. So I'm loading my brush up with red, and then I'm gonna go touch like in the middle of those purples and let it bloom that way. So we're gonna see what that red does as it travels across the purple. That is fun to watch. All right. It's getting a little watery around the edge, so I'm gonna cool it. Just let my paint do its thing. I can't resist. I'm gonna put a little bit of blue in here too. I feel like that is gonna be great. Yeah, that looks nice. And you can see I'm not mixing very purposefully. I'm just setting the paint in there and letting it do what it's doing. We're gonna just let it dry however it decides to dry. And I've got a lot of paint on the edges, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get rid of a little bit of that liquid. And when you remove that liquid, you are removing some color, so keep that in mind. You may want to do that, or you may not, and you can put that color somewhere else. Now I'm thinking, do I want this to be a salty planet? What are we gonna do here? I am not sure. Let's see. That was fun. That was my favorite so far. I think I'm gonna use the little tiny salt, and I'm just gonna put some right there in that big blue area. And then maybe I'll put some at the corners. It's a circle, so I know there aren't technically corners, but there are some cornery places. Corner type areas. Okay, so now we've done a lot of things, and I'm trying to decide what to do right here. What color do we need more of? We have a lot of orange. We've got blue and purple. We could do something with red. Let's do red and yellow. All right, so I'm gonna paint the circle first since I'm using red and it's a dark color. You don't have to paint the circle first. This is your art, so you can do whatever you want. All right, so I've got my base of water down. And I'm gonna go in first with red. And it's quite a bit of red. I'm not being light-handed at all with this red. I'm really putting down quite a bit of red. I like it. It's bright. It's colorful. I'm just trying to stay very easy around this boundary. Sometimes my hand gets shaky and that's harder to do, but that's okay. This is just about the process of art and about having fun. So I'm trying not to worry too much about that. Let's go in. I'm going to add some yellow. As it dries, if this will stay kind of independent yellow. I think that it won't. I think it's just gonna blend right into that red and look very interesting. But watercolor, we don't always know what's gonna happen in watercolor, and I think that's why I like it so much, because there's a lot of suspense in watching it dry. It's not like acrylic where you just wait for it to dry. You've put the paint down and you know exactly what's gonna happen. Watercolor can be a little more, it's kind of got a mind of its own sometimes. All right, so that kind of looks like a little fireball. That's fun. Do I put any salt on it? What do I want to do? I don't know. Oh, I can't resist. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt. I'm gonna put a couple of these like really big grains of salt down and see what they do to our overall look. Oops, that was more than I planned, but here we are. All right, so we'll see what happens when we get these little guys off of there. See what happens as this dries. And now you can start thinking about, well, what do I want to do in this background? I don't know. Maybe you make it look like a galaxy, and these are planets. I have this cool one that I did a long time ago, and it is kind of a lot of these spheres. And I did the background kind of black and pink and blues. And then I went back in with some white paint and put designs over the top. So you can do really anything you want with these shapes. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with mine yet. I think it also would be interesting to do a really light background, like a yellow. Maybe with some other colors splashed in. I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. I think I'm going to do kind of a yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going close to the edge of these at all right now. You know what? I'm going to wait. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to wait for this to dry, and then I'm going to go back in and paint my background. And I'm going to urge you to do the same. So just keep painting. You want to make sure that the edges of your planets are dry before you go close to them at all with any sort of paint. If you want to just paint around the edges, if you just would like to keep painting, just leave a thin little moat so that your paint doesn't blur into the planets. Or if you want it to blur into the planets, you can just kind of wait and see what happens. The hairdryer, if you use a hairdryer to dry your watercolor, the salt will not have quite the same effect. The salt's got to dry in real time if you want it to have its really spectacular effect. Let's see if I need to mop off any water here. I'm going to mop off just a tiny bit here. I'm just going to lift a little bit of this paint out of here. And I don't like this little hard edge, so I'm going to get it wet and just kind of bring it down. Then when it dries, it'll be a little nicer. And I'm going to do the same down here. This is my trick to get my painting to dry more quickly. You're gonna move that paint around or take it off. So I'm gonna try and move it around a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna let this dry and then I wanna see what that salt does. And at the end, when your paint is completely dry, like tomorrow or in a week, then you can leave the salt on if you want, or you can remove that salt and you can just rub it very quickly with a pencil eraser, or if your fingers are nice and dry and not too oily, you can do it with your finger. All right, we'll see what mine ends up looking like. I can't wait to see yours.